And the country now has a newly crowned Miss World Philippines, but not before issues marred the pageant. We begin with developments in the investigations into the government's purchase of COVID-19 supplies. An executive of Pharmally Pharmaceutical, now in the protective custody of the House of Representatives, changes her tune and clarifies the bombshell testimony she made at the Senate. Our AC Nichols has more.
I do admit that it was a pressured response. Given the amount of pressure that I was under at that time, and even the rush of emotions, I was not in the proper frame of mind to think clearly.
Formerly official Crizel Grace Mago recanting statements she previously made before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. This is her first public appearance after she went missing for over a week and was granted protective custody by the House of Representatives. Mago denies she was instructed to tamper with the expiration dates on the face shields delivered to the health department. She also says allegations that Pharmally supplied the government with substandard face shields and test kits are untrue. Mago clarifies that what had happened was product certificates got mixed up after the company carried out quality control procedures.
Wala pong expired na face shields. And ang instruction po na nirelay ko sa aming mga warehouse personnel is to repack po yung mga face shields namin into 10 pieces per packaging po. And then, nung ginagawa po nila yung repacking, nagsabi po sila sa akin na madaming product certificates, alin po dito yung ilalagay namin. So I told them to choose just one.
Mago last appeared before the Senate on September 24th when she gave her supposedly most damaging testimony to the Blue Ribbon Committee. She confirmed at the time the claims of a witness identified as a Pharmally warehouse staff the damaged face shields were not being disposed of. Now, Mago is saying she got confused.
I was really traumatized by what happened, and it really had a negative impact on my mental health po.
The House Public Accountability Panel has repeatedly criticized senators for allegedly politicizing the probe.
Lumilitaw po talaga na kung minsan naaabuso po yung kapangyarihan to conduct formal inquiries and investigation in aid of legislation.
On the other hand, the House inquiry has been criticized as well, with President Duterte's allies seen as using the proceeding to defend the administration's public spending. Mago insists she was not coached to recant her previous claims. AC Nichols, CNN Philippines.
Senators deny they pressured Pharmally official Crizel Mago to admit to tampering allegations. Blue Ribbon Committee Chairperson Richard Gordon says the questions posed to Mago were delivered, quote, in a calm and very measured manner, unquote. Mago recanting her statement did not come as a surprise for Gordon. He says Mago is now tied to Pharmally, which he says is protective of the administration's interests. In a separate interview, Gordon said Mago may have willfully and knowingly made a false statement because she took an oath at the Senate. Senator Frank Drilon points out Mago did not deny the government was swindled, but merely said she was, quote, not in the best frame of mind to think, unquote, a claim Drilon says cannot be corroborated. For Senator Kiko Pangilinan, Mago is a rehearsed witness whose goal, along with that of other Pharmally officials, is to allegedly lie and change a testimony when it is all too late. Gordon believes they have a solid case against Pharmally and others involved in alleged procurement anomalies. The committee will hold its 10th hearing on the handling of pandemic response funds tomorrow. Now, the Health Department lists 11 pre-existing illnesses that will be accepted as priority in the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines for minors 12 to 17 years old this month. Now, these include medical complexity, genetic and neurologic conditions, obesity, HIV infection, tuberculosis, chronic respiratory disease, and renal disorders. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez also named the 6 hospitals in Metro Manila that will serve as vaccination sites: the Philippine Children's Medical Center, the National Children's Hospital, the Philippine Heart Center, Pasig City Children's Hospital, the Fed Del Mundo Medical Center, and the Philippine General Hospital. Health officials say the child and parent or guardian must give an informed consent and present a medical certificate about the minor's comorbidities. Children will be given Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines, the only brands with regulatory approval for minors. Galvez says the government is allocating 60 million doses for adolescents, or around 26 to 29 million people. We are halfway through the period of formalizing 2022 election bids. Aspirants have 4 days to file their certificates of candidacy. Melissa Lopez joins us live from the Sofitel's Harbor Garden tent in Pasay City. Melissa, what was today like? And tell us about the latest additions to this growing list of aspirants.
Yes, Pia, the fourth day of filing was busier compared to the previous days as more politicians and party list groups filed their COCs today. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno filed his COC as president just before noon, together with his running mate, Dr. Willie Ong. In his speech, Moreno said it's the first time he has felt so nervous about an upcoming campaign, but he said he and Dr. Ong are ready to serve.
Tanggapin niyo po ang aplikasyon ko. Buong kababaang loob. Bigyan niyo po ko ng pagkakataon. Paghilumin natin ang ating bansa para sa magandang kinabukasan na ating inaasam.
They are the second confirmed tandem for next year, running under Aksyon Demokratiko. Apart from Moreno, 11 other aspirants filed their COCs for president today. Among them, independent bets Sonny Boy Andrade, Alfredo Respuesto, Faisal Mangundato, Gabriela Larot, and Juanita Troceño, who sang in lieu of a speech. Another revelation, it's not just PDP Laban grappling with an internal rift. The group Philippine Green Republican Party says it has 2 sets of standard bearers. The second faction filed a full slate of 12 senatorial bets today. Their leader, Leo Cadion, says they will have the earlier COCs of June Yulaga and Alex Lage annulled. Cadion, however, was declared a nuisance candidate in the last 2 elections. Several party lists also submitted their list of nominees today, including Gabriela A. Ascenso, AKAP, Truck Drivers Philippines, AKO IP, and Aangat Kusinerong Pinoy, with celebrity chef Boy Logro as their first nominee. Pia?
Melissa, what is the running total for COCs received since the beginning of the filing period last Friday, October 1?
Many presidential candidates, or aspiring candidates rather, 7 for the vice presidency, 39 for senator, and 48 party list groups wanting a seat in Congress so far. Back to you.
Melissa Lopez there reporting. A guessing game on whether Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte will run for president. Although she filed a COC for re-election, her father, President Duterte, says she will still run for the highest post in tandem with Senator Bongo. A political analyst say voters already know this kind of game and the tactic may backfire among them. Our David Santos has more.
After weeks of speculation on his political plans, President Duterte bared over the weekend his surprise withdrawal from next year's election.
And today, I announce my retirement from politics.
His longtime aide, Senator Bongo, taking over his slot as vice presidential aspirant.
So, klaro po ito, Sara Go.
Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte, who filed her candidacy for re-election just an hour after her father's announcement, has no comment.
Kumbaga, nabuhayan kami ng pag-asa.
Aldrin Fermin is part of a network of supporters asking Mayor Sara to succeed her father in Malacanang. They have been clamoring for the president to give way for his daughter. Now they hope Sara would also heed their call.
Yung kasi yung talagang hinihiling namin, na pakinggan niya yung damdamin ng masang Pilipino.
While many may find the president's decision unexpected, for some voters, it did not come as a surprise.
We'll never know kung kumbaga tactics lang nila yon para lang makakuha ng simpatya ng tao.
Hindi naman kasi final pa na magre-retiro na talaga siya. Marami siyang mga changes when it comes sa mga words na binibitawan niya.
Strategy lang nila yun eh. Parang sasabihin nila hindi tatakbo, ganyan. Then after last minute, tatakbo na.
Political analyst Julio Tihanki telling CNN Philippines Newsroom Weekend, Mayor Sara's seeming indecision could be part of a game plan. Despite her public denial she's seeking the presidency, the presidential daughter remains ahead in surveys.
Pag maaga ka nag-declare, ikaw at lalo na kung ikaw ay nangunguna, ikaw ay pupukulin ng lahat ng banat ng mga kalaban mo at by the time na campaign proper na, medyo mababa na ang political capital mo.
But this strategy may also be a double-edged sword. Mayor Sara's recent numbers showing a slight decline.
Ang delikado dyan, baka mawala na ng interes ang mamamayan sa kandidatura ni Mayor Sara kung hindi siya magdidesisyon pa.
With the political landscape still very fluid, Mayor Sara prefers to keep everyone guessing. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
Sara Duterte canceled a trip to Singapore tomorrow after her companion tested positive for COVID-19. She filed a medical leave beginning tomorrow until October 8th for this trip. Back to square one. That is where PDP Laban stands in its choice of presidential candidate. Well, that's according to a faction led by Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi. He confirms to CNN Philippines their new prospect as standard bearer has declined the nomination. PDP Laban's Secretary General Melvin Matibag said Cusi already signed the certificate of nomination for the unnamed nominee. Matibag refused to give more details. He also denies the other faction's claim that the Cusi wing has a, quote, secret agenda, unquote. The group led by Senators Manny Pacquiao and Coco Pimentel has accused the Cusi wing of plotting to support the candidacy of Mayor Sara even if she is not from PDP Laban.
We don't have to broadcast everything publicly kasi as a matter of political strategy, di ba? I'll just give us the leeway kasi syempre medyo sensitive. There are a lot of political maneuvers and political undertones na kailangan nating i-address. Everything is not sasabing secret. So this is an election. Alam niyo naman yung election, labanan yan eh.
Matibag adds the party is looking at no more than 5 names to replace Senator Bongo. Now, when we return on Newsnight, we take a look at where tropical depression Lani is headed, and the Commission on Elections will begin the review of an essential component in the automated election system. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
Muna na po ako.
Okay, ingat po.
Araw-araw, tayo ay hinahamon na mabuhay ng tapat at may integridad.
Sobrang sukli.
Dahil ang mapagkakatiwalaan sa maliit na bagay,
Miss, wallet niyo po.
ay mapagkakatiwalaan din sa malaking bagay. Pero ang mandaraya sa maliit na bagay ay mandaraya rin sa malaking bagay.
Promise is not always easy to keep. But when it is to the ones you love, it's unbreakable. For all your unbreakable promises, Ford Everest.
For my babies, only vet-approved Nutri-Chunks puppies. The only one with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat with essential nutrients to help them grow strong and healthy. Happiness! Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks puppies.
It was the tipping point of a hastily called controversial election. and of the country's dramatic return to democracy. More than 30 volunteer encoders left their workstations on that fateful day of February 9, 1986. They said results were manipulated to favor then-President Ferdinand Marcos. A parallel count by poll watchdog NAMFREL showed opposition candidate Cory Aquino in the lead. It was history in the making. Would the sea of change have turned otherwise without the vigilance of citizens groups? In 1983, NAMFREL pioneered citizen-based election monitoring in the world. 3 years later, the group became a key stakeholder in the snap election, enlisting up to 500,000 volunteers. The volunteers were on watch in polling precincts and at the same time conducted a parallel vote count, as Filipinos, wary of alleged massive fraud, closely guarded the ballots.
We would know if the count is believable or has been manipulated. You have to ensure the integrity of the elections, that the elections will reflect the true will of voters.
The COMELEC accredits citizens groups every election to help promote voter interest and assist in poll activities.
Yan ang pinakamahalagang criteria, non-partisan, walang kinikilingan. And then, titingnan natin kung meron silang kakayanan.
With the advent of automated elections, the citizens' arm remains a key participant in the process, with access to the COMELEC system to conduct an unofficial parallel count. The partial results would then be validated with physical copies of election returns. Besides NAMFREL, the PPCRV has also been accredited to do the quick count. Other poll watchdogs mushroomed through the years, though not necessarily accredited by the COMELEC.
We focus more on fraud as well as the misuse and abuse of government resources vis-a-vis the election.
With the COVID-19 pandemic likely extending to the election period, poll watchdogs say the biggest challenge is getting Filipinos to show up in polling centers to vote. They are calling on the Commission on Elections to make sure voting areas will be safe from the virus and secure from fraud.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. A check now on Tropical Depression Lani. It was last spotted in the vicinity of Gihulngan, Negros Oriental, where it made landfall past 3 this afternoon. The Tropical Depression will move west-northwestward over the Visayas tonight before hitting land again in northern Palawan or the Calamian Islands tomorrow morning. It's forecast Lani forecast to exit the country on Thursday. Signal number 1 up in 14 areas in Luzon and the Visayas, including the southern parts of Masbate, Romblon, and the Mindoro provinces, as well as in Capiz, Aklan, Antique, Iloilo, Cebu, and Bohol. These areas will have moderate to heavy rains and strong winds with occasional gusts today until tomorrow morning. Lani brought continuous rains in Cebu province on Sunday. This triggered a number of landslides and blocked roads until today in the cities of Toledo and Cebu. Coast Guard canceled all trips in the province, leaving 200 passengers stranded. A major road in the municipality of Taft in eastern Samar also closed to motorists. A landslide occurred because of heavy rainfall. In southern Leyte, rescuers evacuated 30 people in a flood-prone area in Silago town. The Commission on Elections kicks off the source code review ahead of the 2022 polls. This is a crucial step to make sure the automated election system will be glitch-free and to boost confidence in the conduct of the polls. Tristan Nadal reports.
A process that will determine the credibility of the 2022 general election results, that's where the Commission on Elections is right now, as it reviews the local source code, which contains a set of human-readable instructions that tells what a computer system should do, and a proper assessment that will boost public acceptance, transparency, and confidence of the automated election system. The review covers the supply chain from the printing of ballots, vote counting machine, and canvassing process. It begins Tuesday and will run until March 2022. The COMELEC points out new features or enhancements in the 2022 elections, including digital signatures, QR code features, and allowing the proclamation of a lone candidate after receiving one transmission. Independent reviewers say hacking the system is still a remote possibility.
Our objective is broken down as to ensure that the AES function as it should on as expected, that the code is clean
and without embedded malicious code, and that we are able to identify any critical or major issues or errors that could potentially impact the outcome of the election.
Hindi masyadong malaki yung risk in terms of hacking. The system itself has a lot of security features.
The COMELEC says it will review processes that could have a potential impact on the integrity of the polls to prevent situations like the 7-hour glitch in the 2016 elections.
Ngayon, idadaanan natin sa review to make sure na maiwasan natin yung mga problema in the past, no? Na small details which would be innocuous, wala naman talagang malaking epekto, pero outsized yung impact niya, no, in terms of credibility, in terms of transparency. So isasama na natin yan.
Representatives from political parties, election watch groups, citizens armed group, and independent IT groups will join the source code review. Strict health protocols will be carried out and security will be tight here at the Diamond Hotel in Manila. Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
A look now at those who filed their certificates of candidacy for local posts. Former President and House Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo again vies for a congressional seat in Pampanga, seeking to replace her eldest son. Arroyo's lawyer filed her COC for representative of the province's 2nd District on October 1st. Arroyo held the post for 3 straight terms beginning in 2010 after she finished her stint as president. Her son Mikey occupied the seat in 2019. Former COMELEC Commissioner Gregorio Larazabal files his COC for representative latest 4th District. Larazabal will face Ormoc City Mayor Richard Gomez, who will attempt to switch seats with his wife Lucy, the district's incumbent representative. Larazabal and Torres Gomez were part of the initial senatorial lineup released by the tandem of Senators Ping Lacson and Tito Soto, but their names were removed from the updated list last month. We are going to see more aspirants filing their certificates of candidacy this week as over 18,000 posts are up for grabs in next year's elections. But before running for an elective office, an aspirant should meet the minimum standards set by law. Let's watch this.
Who can run in the 2022 elections? The certificate of candidacy is one's ticket to seek an elective office. But what makes someone qualified for the job? For president and vice president, the person should be a natural-born citizen, registered voter, can read and write, and at least 40 years old on election day. The candidate should also be a resident of the country for at least 10 years before the polls. A sitting president cannot seek re-election, but a vice president may run for a second term. Candidates for the Senate have the same qualifications, but the age limit is lower at 35 years old. And residency is at least 2 years before election day. A senator can seek re-election, but only for a second straight term. Much younger aspirants can run for district representative, at least 25 years old on election day, a registered voter in the district, and a resident of the same place for not less than a year before election day. For an even lower age requirement of at least 18 to 23 years old, candidates for local positions, governor, vice governor, provincial board member, mayor or vice mayor, and city or municipal councilor must meet these conditions. A registered voter and resident for at least 1 year in the barangay, district, municipality, city or province where they're seeking office.
We hope that all the candidates will cooperate. Especially the nuisance candidates, please, I am begging you, do not do this as a hobby. Do not do this for fun. Do not do this for your Facebook and Instagram post. Do not fill up that certificate of candidacy if you are not seriously running for office.
It's now open season for the elections, and voters should be wise to choose candidates based on history, advocacies, concrete plans, and other credentials to make sure they elect leaders who can govern well and bring change to the nation.
Coming up on Newsnight, amid celebrations and the crowning of the new Miss World Philippines, netizens call out the organization about the candidates' long hours on stage. Details after a quick break.
Nagsimula sa isang pangarap.
Ako na po, ma'am.
Ika'y tutulungang ibahin ang buhay na nakasanayan.
Naka 24 months ka na sa pag-ibig.
Panghulog na ako sa motor.
Uy, bagong motor!
Gagawa ng hakbang para mapaghandaan ng forever.
Ingat ka, ha?
At harapin ang bukas na may maaasahan. Simulan mo na ang forever mo ngayon. Fund your forever with Pag-ibig Fund.
Register today.
Kumagaan ang inuman pag sandiglay.
Hoy, musta?
Ako, stressed sa work, kaya ini-imagine kong nasa beach ako.
Tapos ng mabigat na araw, mag-inuman with friends and sandiglay.
Ulitin natin to. Ang alin? Imagine?
Hindi, mag-inuman.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines News Overseas. Taiwan reports 77 Chinese warplanes entered its air defense identification zone on Friday and Saturday, the highest numbers since the island began publicly reporting such activities last year. Taipei issued radio warnings and deployed air defense missile systems in response to the incursions. Taiwan and mainland China have been governed separately since the civil war ended over 7 decades ago, but Beijing views the island as an inseparable part of its territory. North Korea reopening communications with South Korea after cutting ties in July. Seoul's Unification Ministry confirmed Pyongyang responded via hotline this morning. A communications link between the two countries' militaries has also been restored. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed to restore hotlines last week after South Korean President Moon Jae-in called for an end to the war before the United Nations. Fumio Kishida takes office as Japan's 100th Prime Minister after a special session of parliament today. The 64-year-old Kishida is tasked to lead the world's third largest economy out of the COVID-19 pandemic, which his predecessor Yoshihide Suga struggled to contain. Kishida has proposed a hefty recovery package worth several tens of trillions of yen to steer Japan's economy out of its pandemic-induced slump. Now back here at home, the founder of Pampanga's Best and creator of the original tocino passed away yesterday at the age of 84. The death of Leticia Lolita Olalia Hizon, or Apu Lolet, was announced on the Facebook page of the famous meat processing brand. The company has operated since 1967 and is credited for first inventing and selling the sweet and salty tocino dish. Honoring her memory, the Post also talked about her serving the people of San Fernando and Bacolor and her work as a philanthropist. Now on to other news. This year's Miss World Philippines marred by netizens' outrage after a controversial question from Judge, presidential spokesman Harry Roque, and two stumbles from its newly crowned queen, Tracy Maureen Perez. The anger directed at the pageant's organization, with the coronation night stretching to almost 7 hours. Netizens said contestants were exhausted. Some blamed the unfortunate two-time tumble, one before Perez's crowning and the other during her first walk as the new Miss World Philippines, on the organizers' failure to take the welfare of participants into account. Netizens also quick to criticize the presidential spokesperson's question to Cebu Province Representative Shaila Rebortera. Roque asked what advice she would give the front-runner for president about running despite having very young children. Critics claimed the question was misogynistic, pointing out how he laughed after Rebortera gave an answer. But Roque defended his question when brought up at a media briefing in Pampanga. He said the reactions online were OA, or overacting, and that it was a valid question. Now, in the end, Rebortera's answer impressed the judges, winning her the Miss Multinational Philippines title. Reina Hispano-Americana Filipinas is Emmanuel Vera, Miss Environment Philippines is Michelle Arceo, and Miss Eco Teen Philippines is Tatiana Austria. The night also saw other winners in Trisha Martinez as Miss Tourism Philippines and Kathleen Paton as Miss Eco Philippines. 82 days left before Christmas, and that is it for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again at 7 for News.ph. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
Kini ang simbiyanan sa RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda 5,000 watts nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda.
These days, masks, alcohol, and hand sanitizers are a must-have in every household. But more than these, we need a few more medical supplies and medicines to make sure that we're safe and protected not just from COVID-19, but from a number of common illnesses and injuries. But what medical supplies should always be kept in your home? What are these items for? And how and when should we use them? And when is it time to go see a doctor for professional help? Today on the show, we'll talk about the essentials for a well-stocked medicine cabinet. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk, where your care comes first. It used to be that when we get hurt or don't feel well, our first inclination is to go see a doctor. But it isn't always necessary. And these days, because of the pandemic, we hesitate to go to a hospital. Let's welcome our guest for today. With us is Dr. Camille Macalalag Santa Cruz. She's an emergency medicine specialist at the Rizal Medical Center and Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Also with us is Dr. Pilar Elena Villanueva. She's a family medicine specialist from Healthway Medical Clinic. Now, the first thing that we can talk about are minor cuts and bruises, because many minor injuries and illnesses can be treated easily at home. And among them are, as I mentioned, a cut or a scraped knee for that matter. So these can happen anytime. Accidents can happen. Now, the first thing to do is to clean the wound with clean water as well as soap. That's very handy. And after that, you can apply cleaning solutions after that. Now, Dr. Cams, what are the types of cleaning solutions na maganda para sa minor cuts and bruises? Let's also talk about how different each one is.
If pre-pandemic you've encountered scraping your knee or having a wound and rushing to the ER, you'd notice na yung mga doctors ang ginagamit pang hugas ng sugat is parang dextrose. But that's not dextrose, that's called normal saline solution. Okay? It's an isotonic solution. Pag sinabing isotonic, ibig sabihin yung composition niya is comparable to yung composition ng body fluids natin, lalo na yung salt content. Pero like you mentioned, water is the most, the universal cleanser talaga. Pero when it comes to water, if you have a choice, use drinking water or potable water, just to make sure na medyo lowered yung risk natin for skin infections or for infections. And also, what's more popular now is yung mga antimicrobial wound cleansers. Pag sinabing antimicrobial, what comes to mind is yung povidone iodine natin or betadine, di ba? Also, agua apoxinada, hydrogen peroxide, lagi ang part ng mga emergency kits natin at home. Some pointers lang, when you use betadine or povidone iodine, we also use that in the hospitals. Even for surgeries, yan ang ginagamit panlinis, no? Kasi at any given time, meron tayong layer of mikrobyo talaga sa skin natin. So pag nasugatan tayo, that becomes a door for the microbes to come in. Mm-hmm. So pag ginamitan mo siya ng betadine, it's it's a broad spectrum antimicrobial. So ibig sabihin, papatayin niya yung mga pathogens or yung mga mikrobyo na pwedeng pumasok or sumuot na dun sa sugat.
Dr. Camps, what can you say about those who are used to using alcohol directly on the wound kapag nasugatan sila at yun yung panlinis nila?
So buti na mention mo ang alcohol ever since, no, kahit nung maliit tayo, napakahapdi niyan sa sugat. It's actually used to clean intact skin, no? Pag tayo nagdi-disinfect ng kamay, halimbawa may nahawakan tayo, pwede yan. Pero directly on wound, it's a no-no. Kasi bukod sa it's painful, it's volatile as well, madali din mag-evaporate, hindi rin nabibigay yung tamang cleansing na supposedly afforded to you.
Of course, we have to put some antibiotic creams after that. We'll talk more about that later on. But I want to talk about naman yung pag-bandage natin sa sugat. So, if it's a small cut, small wound, a band-aid would suffice. But bigger scrapes, you might need some bandage or some gauze on the injury so it can begin to heal. Now, Dr. Pai, my question is, ano bang purpose ng bandage? Pag-bandage natin, pagtakip lang to kasi ayaw natin makita yung sugat? Or does it serve as a means of applying pressure to the wound to stop bleeding? What's the purpose of bandaging a wound?
Well, yeah, you're correct about the putting pressure because it helps in stopping the blood flow, for one. That's one of the things you want. But it also serves to protect the wound, especially in areas that are very exposed and prone to being touched or being exposed to other elements in the environment. But aside from that, it has been shown that by covering or protecting the wound, it actually enhances the wound healing. So mas mabilis tayong gumaling when we protect the wound or cover the wound.
Right. And to add to your list of items you need in your medicine cabinet, make sure you have a quality pair of scissors, maybe tweezers, cotton balls, and swabs readily available. Bear in mind, if the cut or wound is too deep and the bleeding isn't stopping despite applying adequate pressure, go see a doctor because you might need stitches. Now, cuts and scrapes often come with accompanying pain, but there are different types of pain relievers for different kinds of pain. Dr. Pai, what pain relievers should we keep at home and when should we use them? Headaches, for example. What can our viewers take for a headache?
All right, there are actually several types of pain relievers. You have your oral medications, you have your topical medications, and it would depend on the cause, right? So for simple headaches, simple paracetamol might do. But there are also a type of medications known as your NSAIDs or non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. That would be your ibuprofens and mefenamic acids. But to take them, you have to make sure that there is something in your stomach. Kasi they can cause some stomach upset. So usually, I would ask the patient to just try the paracetamol at first.
Okay. Now, sometimes relieving pain doesn't require taking any form of oral medication or topical medication for that matter. A hot water bag or gel bag might just do the trick. Now, Dr. Camp, tell us when a hot water bag can be useful and what is the principle behind an increase in temperature in relieving some forms of pain?
These bags can be pain relief aids, no? So nakakatulong siya para maibsan yung kirot na nararamdaman. Pagka tayo na-injure, okay, our body has its normal healing mechanisms. It brings about different substances towards the area of injury. So mamamaga talaga yung area na yon, magiging swollen. Pagka ginamitan natin ng malamig, nagko-constrict yung blood vessels, no? So napipigilan yung agarang pag-swell ng area. At the same time, cold can also dampen the sensation. So, nakakatulong talaga sa pain.
And as a reminder to our viewers, whenever you're using a hot bag or a cold compress for that matter, always have a piece of cloth or something in between and don't apply it directly to your skin. Now, we have a good start to our ideal medicine cabinet, but there are other supplies we need to help with common problems such as stomach aches, cough, colds, and allergies. We'll tell you more after a short break. Your care comes first here on MedTalk Health Talk, only on CNN Philippines.
Kasakit gid sa ako ang mga mata. Uy, labad pagyud kay ako ang ulo. Mura kog malipong ba? Unya
Unya, murag limtanon pagyud ko. Unsaon man ni uy.
Naa na gyud kay problema, miss. Ha? Tanawa gud nagsakay ka sa tricycle, wala kay suot bra. Para masolba na imo problema, ha? Pag inom man ni Lutein Plus.
Unsa? Lutein Plus? Asa man na nimo gikan?
Ako man ninadunggan sa radyo, miss. Mao nga kapalit ko naan pagpagandam ba.
Sige, salamat kayo ha. Magpalit dayon ko og Lutein Plus.
Ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated na silang bagong location sa Dalan, Burgos ning atong syudad. Mahimo niyong tawagan sa telephone number 231-7478 or 826-3663. Mga produkto nga inyong mapalit, genuine, Makita Power Tools sama sa planer, drill, grinder, Triton Paints, construction supplies, angle bars, flat bars, GI pipes, automotive spare parts, Firefly electrical devices sama sa switches, bulbs ug outlets. Adto ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated sa ilang bagong pwesto sa Dalan, Burgos ning syudad. Makahangyo ka o makabarato pagyod diha sa Riverside Parts Master Incorporated.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
You're watching Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care always comes first. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Nothing can slow down your day like stomach distress, discomfort, and pain. But which medication you should use depends on what you are feeling. Dr. Pai, what medicines do you recommend that we add to our medicine cabinet to treat most common stomach problems?
Well, usually we have that in stock. Those things that come in a sachet or some in tablets, the aluminum hydroxide or magnesium hydroxide, and that would help na alleviate the stomach pain, the acid that's coming out of our stomach. And this is usually taken after meals or at bedtime, especially if you're prone to gastritis.
Okay, very good. Now, Dr. Pai, there's also another common stomach problem, and that is diarrhea. Now, there are several medications actually for diarrhea. One is to try and relinquish whatever is causing that diarrhea. And there's also some medication that lessens the spasm of the stomach, hence giving some relief to that. When should you use one medication as opposed to the other?
Well, actually, we have to make sure first that there are no red flags. If there's fever, if there's blood in the stool, or if there's too much going out, a lot of water going out, or there's mucus coming out, you should go see the doctor by then because those are not good signs. But for those instances where we want to stop or relieve ourselves, we have to check first, is there signs of infection? If there's no signs of infections, then we can loperamide that would stop the diarrhea. But it would also help, more important note, to be well hydrated during this time.
Now, a persistent cough, stuffy or runny nose, and watery eyes can be treated in a number of ways. Dr. Camille, which medication should we take for colds and coughs? But before that, is there a tried and true medication that can cure us from the common cold?
There are a lot of over-the-counter medications out there that we can get from our usual drugstore, no? But many of these treatments have combinations in them. So, lagi nating babasahin kung ano yung components, no? Usually, meron yan decongestant. Kung para sa sipon, merong decongestant, merong antihistamine, at may pain reliever. Magkakasama yan. So, always be conscious about what you take in, no? For colds, for example, for stuffy nose, yung decongestant works perfectly, no? And also, yung mga cold preparations na ito are usually safe naman to use. However, always be conscious if you are hypertensive. Some of the decongestants are actually vasoconstrictors. So, pinapataas niya yung BP mo. So, kaya usually hindi recommended sa mga may hypertension ang kaliwat kanan umiinom ng mga cold preparations, no? So, aside from decongestants, yung, of course, pag may colds tayo, may congestion, may pananakit na din ng ulo. So, yung pain reliever that comes with that cold preparation usually works fine as well, no? So when it comes to cough suppressants, it's centrally acting, no? Ibig sabihin, pinapahinto niya yung cough reflex, okay? Pero paano kung maplema ka? Ibig sabihin, meron kang kailangan ilabas, no? Doon sa airway mo na nakakairita. Dito papasok ang expectorants natin or ang mucolytics. So always check what type of cough medication you are about to take, no? So for your safety as well. So always drink plenty of water, tulad ng sabi ni Dr. Pai, that helps with our respiratory system. Aside from that, of course, you may supplement with vitamin C and zinc. They're proven to minimize yung symptoms ng common cold natin. So, yun.
Now, moving on from cough and colds, let's talk about allergies naman, because sometimes the symptoms for allergies can be similar to those for a cold, but the medication you take isn't. Dr. Cam, which medication should we take for allergy-related problems? And our viewers have to know that there are some allergy medications that can cause drowsiness.
Yes, that's true. So when it comes to allergies, it means you've encountered an allergen, no? Yung nakakairita sa sistema mo. And as an effect, your body is producing histamines, no? To combat these allergens. So yung pag-produce ng katawan natin ng tinatawag na histamine, yan po ang rason kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng runny nose, no? Watery eyes, minsan pangangate, mga rashes, no, or hives sa katawan. So our antihistamine, no, works to combat, no, yung release ng histamine from the cells. So maraming klase ng antihistamines, and like Doc Freddy said, ang pinaka-common side effect, it will make you drowsy or sleepy. So medyo maging conscious lang tayo, especially kung magda-drive tayo, no, or meron tayong gagawin na involving knives or anything sharps na medyo hold off yung mga activities na gano'n if you're taking an antihistamine for your safety.
Okay, very good. Now, Dr. Pai, when it comes to antihistamines, what should our viewers know about how fast that these can work?
Well, it depends on the type of antihistamine you're going to take. So, a lot of them would last for a whole day. So, it might take a while, about 20 to 30 minutes before they would move or they will start to work for us. But there are some that are short-acting, which move faster or work faster, but they usually have a shorter lifespan. So these are the types that we usually take more often throughout the day.
Okay. Now we're just about to close our medicine chest, but before we do, we'll take a closer look at medical safety, plus a few more medical-related supplies that you might need. We'll fill you in after the break. We're your partner in healthcare here on MedTalk Health Talk. Stay with us.
Kugon Health Alert.
Akong benepisyo nga nakuha sa Kugon capsule, dakan ko gibati, haway akong likod, buton, sukan nga nakasuway ko nga nga Kugon Herbal Capsule. Okay magayo, mga iskasimana na ako nga pag-inom. Okay tayo ako ang mamati na. Hard worker ngid ko. Di ka ako na ditay batiyon, sakit-sakit sa kalawasan. Kan nga nagagamit ko ning Kugon Herbal Capsule. Okay magayo. Ako na lang yung ipadayonan. Sobra semana na yun ako nagagamit ko ani. Mayo man ang alibyo, mayo resulta.
Timani, basta kugon, lawas mo, bas kugon. Dagan salamat, maing adlaw ka na tong tanan.
Protektahi ang imong mga mata batok sa delikado ug makadaot nga ultraviolet nga silaw sa adlaw ug uban pa. Pinaagi sa pagsulob og eksakto nga prescription sa antiyohos o antipara. Likay ang mga simptomas sama sa hanap nga pananaw sa layo o duol nga basahon, sakit sa ulo ug uban pa nga makaapekto sa atong kahimsog nga ang hinungdan depekto sa atong mga mata. Alang sa kumpleto nga primary eye care, contact lenses, fashion eyewear, computer eyeglasses, sunglasses, accessories ug uban pa, adto kita sa AG Buñuel Optical Clinic. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic nagpahinumdum kanato nga ang kahimsog sa atong mga mata usa ka prioridad nga angay ipa-check up kausa matag tuig aron pagsiguro nga luwas kita sa piligrong mga sakit. Pinaagi sa lisensyado og qualified optometrists nga maoy mo prescribe sa eksaktong kagamitan ug kung primary eye care ang paghisgutan. Duaw lang silang buhatan sa 3636 sa Nicolas Street, Surigao City ug adunay ilang extension office sa Aurelianida Street, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur. Ayaw kalimti higala, AG Buñuel Optical Clinic.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic doon na branch dito sa lungsod sa Dapa sa may Lupis Haina Street, Poblasyon Dapa, Surigao del Norte.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic dinhi sa syudad ng Surigao no transfer na sa bag-ong location sa Nicolas Street Ragyahapon, tapad sa Garcia Hotel at bang sa Unicity.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Your health is important to us. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Today, we've been talking about what you need at home to treat common injuries as well as illnesses. But we want to point out that these treatments are only meant to provide relief for minor medical problems only. Be sure to see a doctor for more serious injuries or if the condition persists. Now, along with a well-stocked medicine cabinet comes the responsibility of using its contents properly. Dr. Pai, what should our viewers know when it comes to using their medicine safely?
Well, first of all, storage is very important. So you have to store them properly. They have to be in a cool, dry place. They should be kept away from pets and animals, and make sure that they are well organized. You know, some of the lalagyan of the medications, they are sometimes hard to read. So what I would do is place them in a bigger envelope or container and then write big letters on them and write what they are for so that there won't be a confusion when the time comes.
Now, Dr. Pai, when it comes to the expiration date ng mga medicines, of course, we want to avail of the medication before its expiration date. But what does the expiration date mean? Does it mean na toxic na ito kapag lumampas ng date na ito?
Oh yeah, good thing you mentioned that I also put the expiration date on all the medications that we have, because once it reaches that date, usually the potency goes away, so it's not as good as before, and sometimes it starts to disintegrate as well. So it's not really good to use anymore.
Okay. Now, not all medical supplies need to fit into your medicine cabinet, but should be stored nearby where they can easily be accessed when needed. Dr. Camille, what else should our viewers keep at home in order to prepare and assess or prevent a medical situation?
So other supplies would entail things that are easy to access, no, from department stores or whatnot, but you can keep them in your medicine cabinet. This includes petroleum jelly. It has very wide use, no. It helps seal your skin. It provides water protective barriers, no. You can use it to moisturize your skin. For burns, you can use it as well, no. It can promote healing. Of course, if you don't want to use petroleum jelly, then by all means go get a burn ointment or cream, no, to supplement your medicine stock. Okay, when it comes naman for insect bites, no, there are a lot of insect bite ointments out there as well. Aside from that, Dr. Pai already mentioned your usual pain relievers, your medications for diarrhea, no, yung Hydrate.
Yes, good advice. And we hope we were able to help you get started on what you need to provide for yourself and your family with safe and effective home health care. With that, I'd like to thank our guest, emergency medicine specialist Dr. Camille Macalalag Santa Cruz, and family medicine specialist Dr. Pilar Elena Villanueva. Maraming salamat sa inyong dalawa. Don't wait until it's too late to supply your medicine cabinet. Educate yourself on home treatments and remember to use your medicines safely. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thanks for watching MedTalk Health Talk here on CNN Philippines.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Kini nga oras hatod